employers have now a duty to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace.
There's been a bit of research that stated that there's been lots of sexual harassment within the workplace, or what's the why behind it?
Shall I give a little bit of reassurance on it?
Please, I need it.
Yeah. We can still reject a flexible working request as long as it falls within 8 criteria.
Really around the day one rights. So, paying from day one as opposed to waiting the 4 days.
It's around 1 in 4 people that experience harassment in the workplace.
This episode of All Things Business, the podcast, is brought to you by digital media partner DFA Law. DFA Law, providers of expert and dedicated legal advice to businesses and families since 1838. DFA Law, the law firm for life.
Ladies, welcome.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thank
Hello.
you for having
Don't
us.
go shy on me.
No.
So I've invited all three of you on today, following the recent employment
Rights bill.
rights bill.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because I think this is a bit of a grey area,
Okay.
and I think there's some different things that are coming into play immediately.
Yeah.
Naomi, which
Yeah.
is your article in the last edition of All Things Business.
Yeah.
But then also there's stuff that's going to be coming in the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have some fun and some education. But before we do that, please introduce yourselves to our audience. So we'll start off with you, Naomi.
Okay. Hello. I'm Naomi Butters, the Chief Exec of Icena, which is a training and consultancy business which helps businesses create safe, equitable workplaces.
Oh, me. So I'm Priya Magar, so I'm a partner in the employment team at EMW, which has offices based here in Northampton and with SP Law and in Milton Keynes, Brighton and London.
I'm Claire Butcher, part of CE People, an outsourced HR firm working on retainer models, working with small businesses that can't afford or don't have that internal resource themselves.
And that's a really important thing because as a small business owner, we represent 94% of the economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's fair to say that businesses probably have to be at maybe 35, 40 employees before they get a HR manager. Would that be fair?
No, I would definitely disagree with that. We're working with businesses as small as 5 people.
No, sorry, I meant like as a full-time employee. You wouldn't get that.
Okay, so sorry, on the flip side of that, we've got a customer who's got 80 employees and no
okay.
HR representation.
It just all depends. Sometimes you have people that have HR as a hat within, say, operations.
Yeah.
Kind of, it all depends on the nature of the organisation.
The point I mean is it's actually a speciality because
It is.
I look at HR
Yeah.
as an insurance policy now.
Yeah,
And it has to be, and you need to have that expertise.
absolutely. You need to have that knowledge and that skill there, and you need to, fundamentally you are protecting the business owners, but you're also, for me, it's about doing the right thing by the employees as well. So, creating great culture, great environment, platforms where people can talk, have an opinion, have a voice. And if the businesses are given support and help through HR to set up the right platform and the right environment, really, there shouldn't be that many internal problems.
So, Naomi, as we sit here now,
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
preventing harassment in the workplace.
Yes.
This is now come into effect.
Yes, it
literally
has.
at the weekend.
Yes.
Just tell us about that.
Okay, so as of Saturday, employers have now a duty to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace. So what that means is you have to show that you are actively working with your employees to stop it from happening. So, for example, you have to talk about it. You have to sort of have those conversations in the workplace, which means that your staff feel safe, that if they did feel uncomfortable with a work colleague, for example, that they know the exact processes that are going to happen if they decided to take a claim to their employer.
And why is this? Has it been introduced because there's been a bit of research that stated that there's been lots of sexual harassment within the workplace, or what's the why behind it?
It's about, I would say, looking at the statistics, it's around 1 in 4 people that experience harassment in the workplace.
Wow.
So it happens a lot. And I think this is about making sure that people feel safe in the workplace. So it's been a long time coming. This is like pre-Labour. This has been going on for a long time.
That's going to be one of my other questions, because I don't want this to go all political, but I'm thinking, wow, they're introducing this quite quickly, but this was a Tory policy, presumably, yeah?
Yes, it was, yeah. And this has been like 2 years, 3 years in the making. This has been going on for a long time.
When you mentioned about the claim against the organisation, what's the advantage for the organisation to have these conversations in the workplace, document them, training, I'm guessing?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that employers should be doing. So they first of all should be carrying out like a risk assessment to make sure that they are looking at the risk of harassment in the workplace. And when we are talking to our clients, we're saying what you need to be doing is thinking about the person with the most protected characteristics in your office and carry out the risk assessment based on that person. Because if you're protecting the most vulnerable person in your organisation, you are protecting your whole workforce. So that's one thing they should be doing.
Good. I think that's good. And this is going to sound silly, but I'm sure there'll be people listening to this that might be asking the same question themselves. Where's the template for that risk assessment? Where does that exist? Is it something that the government have sort of said, listen, download it from this?
There are plenty out there, but obviously...
Come to you, of course, now. Yeah. Don't worry. We'll do the plugs at the end. Just set that one up for you.
We just have a free risk assessment if anybody wants one.
No. But where do they get that?
They can just go onto our website and get in contact with us that way. But
which is?
www.icena.net.
Okay. So but I mean that honestly, because to find a template for that risk assessment would be so useful for a business owner.
Yeah.
And is this going to affect companies of certain sizes or industries more than others?
It affects everybody. Mm-hmm. So you can be a voluntary organisation, so not for profit with volunteers, and you'll still have to put something in place, or you can be a small business or a large business. It's absolutely everybody.
The larger the business, the larger the risk. That's exactly the thing. And also, it's not just about what goes on in the workplace, is it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to come on to that in a minute because we're approaching festive season. But is it fair to say that this is sort of crept up on us, or not really?
I think kind of from the Me Too side of things, it's really, I would say, ramped up. Mm-hmm. I think in terms of prominence.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Naomi's saying. This is something that's been quite a long time coming, in terms of being
needed
and being implemented. And it's a case of getting employers to think about it, because, you know, like Claire was saying, this isn't necessarily just covering what happens in the workplace, but could potentially cover external matters. So kind of, I think I was joking with you earlier, Ben, it's kind of from my employer's perspective, it could cover things like doing this podcast, going out and meeting clients, mm-hmm. kind of the workplace socials. So it definitely extends way beyond what just happens in the 9 to 5 in the office.
Yeah, because it also includes third-party harassment as well. So it's not just looking at harassment that happens internally, mm-hmm. but if you are a customer-faced business, which everybody is, if you're in the retail sector, for example, and a customer harasses you as an employer are now liable. So you need to make sure that you have processes in place to protect that. And that's going to be...
I struggle with that.
Really difficult.
I think that's so unfair on the employer.
I think to give a little bit of reassurance on that, Ben, this is not saying you have to, there is an obligation to stop. You can't stop every single situation of sexual harassment occurring. What this is saying is what you need to do is just take a step back and think about it. Let's do a risk assessment and assess where are the scenarios in which it could occur. What could we do? Try our best to protect our employees. You can't stop everything.
Agreed. And two things there. One is, if a company embraces this in terms of, we're going to implement this training, we're going to have these conversations with our staff, here's our risk assessment, and companies that don't, because I think you're either going to be in one of those two camps.
Yeah.
And yet you have an employee that suffers from harassment down the line. In the court of law, what's going to happen to the employer? Because you mentioned earlier, Naomi, about the the claim against the employer. So is there a case of, well, there's a fine or there's a fining system? How does it affect the company owners?
All right. So on the legal side of things, from a sexual harassment, there is technically, not yet, but this is what's kind of one of the things being proposed in the Employment Rights Bill. Your employers are technically not liable for third-party harassment from an employment tribunal perspective. That used to be the case, but that is not the case at present, but potentially could be happening in the kind of further down the line. But you are, we say vicariously liable. You are liable for the actions of your employees. So if another one of your employees harasses another one, there is a potential claim that an employee can make towards their employer. Now, there's a couple of defences. I don't really want to be too technical on that, but, where it's called a reasonable steps defence kind of side of things. But as part of the preventative duty that kind of Naomi's talking about is you also need to look at measures of, if someone does suffer from sexual harassment in the workplace, what kind of means by which can they report it to their employer? Is it the best way possible for them? Is kind of going straight to HR? Is it possible to have multiple avenues in which
make it as accessible as possible for the individual?
Because I don't know the exact statistics, but I know kind of in terms of the 1 in 4 experiencing harassment, the number is like significantly lower of those who feel comfortable enough to report it to their employer.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what the exact.
And that will be because of the accessibility, presumably.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also, fear of reprisals as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say it's the knock-on effect, it's the impact.
Absolutely. Like we had a client recently who we're working with talk to us about a senior member of staff who had taken advantage of a younger member of staff, sort of said to her, "Oh, we can see your potential, you're brilliant at what you do, why don't we go and get a drink and I'll tell you how you can progress your career." And that ended up with her feeling extremely uncomfortable. She went for a drink because she thought it was a good opportunity. She respected that senior member of staff, and she soon felt uncomfortable, walked away from the situation, and then he started contacting her on all socials, different numbers, and then turned around to her and said, "If you tell anybody, your career's over." And that is why lots of people don't report, because it's like, well, what do I do? I'll just leave. The safest thing for me to do is just leave.
And when on the bill, it's harassment in the workplace. Is harassment an umbrella word? But is it just sexual harassment, or is it harassment? Because they're under that would come bullying. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think it's everyone's interpretation of what harassment is.
For me, sexual harassment is what's written, but for me, you should be taking harassment seriously in any context.
Yeah, of course.
I think if you are doing kind of like what Naomi said, doing the risk assessment, if you're just doing it from a sexual harassment side of things, which is technically what the duty covers, I don't think from an employer's perspective that goes far enough, even though that's technically what the duty is. Like Naomi said, you do it on kind of your most vulnerable employee, and that could be someone who could suffer harassment on multiple different strands, kind of race, disability,
gender,
gender. Yeah, so sex harassment is different slightly to sexual harassment, and again, I'm not going on the technicals of it, but if you're going to be, this is an opportunity, I think, for employers if you're going to be doing this and assessing it from a sexual harassment perspective, I think you should, use this opportunity to think wider, and it's only going to benefit employers in the long run.
Press the reset button and to have that sort of wider HR approach with somebody like yourself.
And it's just following good business practice and doing everything that you possibly can, and that gives goes back to the point you made as a business owner. What do I need to be doing? I can't, you can't be following everybody all of the time. You can't be everywhere. You can't hear and see everything that's going on, but you need to have peace of mind yourself that you've done everything that you possibly could. And I think, working with the right people, following good business practice, implementing those processes, doing the risk assessments, all of those things, having the right policies in place, absolutely shows that you've done the best you possibly can.
I think as well, it's like this bill has made everybody feel a bit nervous, but think of it like you would mental health now. So when you're in a workplace, you want your colleagues to talk about their mental health, you want people to feel safe and happy in the workplace. Think that's all you need to do. Like when you're having those conversations about harassment in the workplace in this bill and making sure that everybody feels safe, it's just having those conversations so that, you know, you can say to your colleague, actually, I didn't really like how you said that to me, you know, and they feel safe to do that. It's pressing the reset button, but creating an inclusive, safe culture in the workplace, which I think a lot of workplaces have, you know. I'd hope they'd have.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think I mentioned earlier, I can't help but feel like this is sort of crept up, because I'm here with my small business owner's hat on, saying I feel like this is crept up on us. And to be fair, Naomi, if it hadn't been for you and I having a conversation 6-7 weeks ago, I wouldn't. You were the one that sort of made me aware of it, and then it was only when you start to read it, you go, actually, this is happening. It's real. Now we've implemented through our HR platform. We've got Breathe HR.
Oh yeah,
Breathe.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I think it's been very, very good. And we've tasked the team that they've got to go and complete 2 of the training modules on there. But I don't think there'll be many other businesses that won't have a platform like Breathe.
That's right.
We're approaching the festive period. Why would a small business owner want to take their 10, 15, 20 staff on a Christmas party now? And I mean, it's a loaded question, that, because I'm not saying that every staff party somebody gets sexually harassed. I'm not saying that for 1 minute, but they're potentially creating an opportunity for somebody, once they've had too much alcohol, to put themselves and their colleagues and their company, their livelihood, in a really, really difficult situation. Why would they want to do that?
I think if you didn't do it, you're saying you don't trust your workforce, and that then says something as an employee.
About the culture.
About the culture of the organisation. So really, what you need to be doing is putting these things in place now, having those conversations, but don't make it necessarily all about training. Just have those conversations in a safe place, you know, have the banter conversation, have the
but it's interesting you say that when you talk about banter, because I think there's then a fine line.
And there is.
There
absolutely
But
is.
everybody has their line differently.
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
Depending on where you are,
I
people
agree.
have and therefore people then. I'll be honest. There are certain things that probably 3 or 4 years ago I would say in an open office that I definitely don't say now, and that's because I'm very aware that my unique sense of humour, people like Arthur get,
But others don't.
but others won't.
But do you know
And
what that says? It says that your mindset has changed.
I've grown
and
up.
Yeah, possibly.
I've known Claire
Years.
for years, so I could say that.
But it's also educating your workforce to do the same. You know, that would be my view. Where you're saying there are things that I would have said and now don't, it's bringing your team along on that journey with you, educating them in the same way.
But part of me also
Oh
feels
no, I was going to say, what are you going to say now?
well, no, part of me feels a little bit, not sad. Sad sounds too dramatic, but almost like,
It's taking away the fun.
yeah. And there is that. And look, you know, when we first met,
Yeah,
it was an IT world,
it
wasn't
was.
it?
Yeah.
You know,
And there is definitely
so there are going to be some businesses and sectors that I think are going to really struggle with this because of the nature. I mean, my first ever job was selling cars. Completely different environment to what it is now. And I think it's going to be a really tough learning curve for businesses and business owners to really embrace. But I also appreciate what you said at the beginning, Priya, about it being needed and it needs to be implemented, and it's finding that.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones where it's like, it's not telling you to stop doing anything. It's really you don't. It's not to stop doing anything. It's just to take stock and think, in what situations could things happen? It's kind of the education piece. Go for your Christmas party, but make sure you go. You know, people are made clear. You do something stupid, there's going to be repercussions.
And there would
it.
be anyway. There
You
would
know?
be in the 90s and the early noughties. There would have definitely been repercussions. I'm guessing this allows, with a code of conduct, for example, for a Christmas party, this enables you to sack someone a lot easier than what it would have been if you didn't have a code of conduct. No.
You need to follow a process.
Yeah, exactly. We're kind of on that little bit of the look, there's always, and again, we're not going to the legals, you following a process. And this doesn't change, this new duty doesn't change that process.
I suppose where I'm coming from, before we move on to the next part, ladies, from a small business owner's perspective, it's hard enough running a business as it is, with everything else we have to challenge with. The thought that one or maybe two individuals could cause your business so much upheaval and stress because they were the ones that chose to make that wrong decision. You as a small business owner, you can't be responsible for everybody's actions and behaviour, inside and outside of work, because at the end of the day, if someone goes and does something and they're in your staff uniform, I mean, we don't need to go into the detail of the legalities, etc. But and that's the bit that I just fear for small business owners, that there's going to be some cases going forward where you're going to feel sorry for that business owner, even though they've maybe done a the risk assessment template.
Yeah, it does go beyond a risk assessment, though. It is about, like we've spoken about before, it is about creating that inclusive, safe working environment where your employees feel trusted and they feel respected. Because I think if you have that in a workplace, that goes such a long way.
And just to come back on that point, and I get it completely, and I'm all for the culture and the environment, 100%. But when we implemented, and we've had to do this very quickly because it wasn't since I met you, Breathe HR.
You're welcome.
I think. Thank you. Sorry, that was a backhanded thank you. But the staff, I think it's 28 hours of, no, is it 28 or 26 hours of training that they would have done on Breathe HR. Now, they've done that in work time. We're in a service industry where it's billable hours. That is effectively a loss of revenue for us as a small business, because I can't ask the staff to take it on their lunchtime or take it out of hours. And so what I'm saying is...
Shall I give a little bit of reassurance on it?
Please,
right?
I need it.
You
well,
can
it's
never
not for
look.
Me, it's for the...
No. For the small businesses, I wish I could say you can do everything possible on this and you will prevent a spurious claim. You will have some kind of claimants that just are out there and will do spurious claims. But what I will say is someone kind of who primarily acts for employers, that if you do this and if you do the training, yes, it kind of results in a short-term maybe loss of revenue. It's a bit of a pain in the bum. But when it comes to, if you have someone who's trying to bring that ridiculous claim, knowing that you've done everything, it makes, as an employer, your position a lot stronger.
Yeah.
Comes back to the trust, though.
No. It comes back as hopefully those spurious claims will become less because you're creating an environment where they feel safe. Hopefully stuff like this doesn't happen. But if you get those claimants, from my position, it's a lot easier for me to go and kind of defend an employer knowing that they've done everything. And you could have cost savings you can stop a situation earlier because you can be quite robust and say, we've done X, 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 X. And so, it can prevent, say, legal costs from my side of you having to go all the way of defending a claim. So it's a bit of a short-term pain for long-term, for more of a long-term game.
Yeah, and this is the point about the trust element. In a way, it doesn't matter even if you do trust your staff or you don't trust your staff, you've still got to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you've got to protect your livelihood going forward. Right, let's park that. Let's go on to something else. Day one rights.
Oh, you're going to love that, aren't you?
I mean, what the
heck?
Well,
it's
I'll think of another four-letter word that ended in K, Claire, but...
I mean, so let's be clear first and foremost. It's not in law at the moment, and there is a period that they're going through and
consultation. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
but we're looking at autumn
August,
the
autumn of
earliest
26.
is
Yeah, so
autumn,
we are
yeah.
a long way off. Of that coming. And again, for me, that should give all employers the time to start putting in place correct processes, again, following good business practice, looking at their recruitment, process. There's so many things that
It's a little bit of a reassurance as well. There is consultation about a statutory probation period. So whilst we have technically what they're proposing is day one rights. I don't know kind of all the ins and outs of how this is going to work. And literally in my team, we've spent hours thinking about the permutations about how it's going to work. But kind of, and Claire, please jump on this, but kind of my understanding is, from a statutory probationary period perspective, there still can be the ability to terminate and have that protection as long as it's for kind of legal reasons and they're set out in legislation. And I think process-wise, and this is what I'm really interested in, on how much process you kind of need to follow. So it will still be possible to terminate and have some form of protection, but it'll be very interesting to see.
All right, so I'm going to give you a live example. Well, this is not live. I'm going back 2 years. All right.
Go on.
Employed a person who, for a very specific job, which was to run our Google ads here. Okay, so it's a bit of a specialist niche subject. Chosen in person, lived in Leicester. We're in Northampton. So that person joined with us on the Monday, and on the Thursday, that person said it wasn't working for him. It's too hard that.
Just don't say the name.
And he said, I want to work from home to do the job. And I went, why? And he said, well, Northampton is just too far. And I went, well, the office hasn't moved from the 2 interviews that you had, but on day 4, he wants to work from home. So we had a very, very frank discussion, and he decided that it was best to move on and get another job. If that situation was to happen, if day 1 rights come in, I'm knackered, ain't I?
No, I was going to say, I mean,
well,
and
we're
there's
going to come
also
on to
the
flexible working. Huh?
That thing is not technically new. That's been proposed before. Well, something similar has been proposed.
Yeah, because of COVID. That's the only reason that flexible working has become more popular now, because the nation had to work through a pandemic. But
some of that comes down to your recruitment as well, because is it clear in your job advert of the location of where this role needs to be? So if you have advertised a role, if there's
but Claire, you had 2 interviews. That's the point I made. Like, when it comes to the recruitment piece, whether it's on LinkedIn or you go for an agency, the challenge I've got is you meet somebody probably twice before you give them the job. You build up the trust because you're looking into the whites of their eyes, etc. And then they're going through a curveball on you within the first few days or a couple of weeks. I feel like the employers got their hands tied. No.
And I get that, and it's.
Sorry to cut in there.
No, sorry.
No, go ahead, carry on.
I think this is where the consultation period is gonna come in handy. I think from like what Claire was saying, recruitment is probably key. Looking at your recruitment practices, looking at your probation practices. How often do you meet with the people when you start with probation? Because from the looks of things, the probation period is going to be really important.
Yeah.
But from a consultation side of things, I think there are ways in which they're going to try and make it easier for small businesses. It's the flexible working side of things. I think is probably going to be more of the issue for me in terms of just thinking about kind of when I read the employment rights bill. I was slightly disappointed a little bit, but
let's go on to that. Just explain to the audience about the flexible working.
Do you want to?
Go on,
So fundamentally, what they're saying is, as you recruit, a new employee joins, they have day 1 rights. They have the opportunity to apply for flexible working from day 1. But fundamentally, that's always been the case.
Well, no, that's kind of the day 1, is in now.
Yeah, but the flexible working is also from day one.
Yeah, that is actually in now. Yeah. I think how it's positioned is changed. Is what it is now is it's relatively easy to reject a flexible working request now. So it isn't the presumption your flexible working request is granted and it's on the employer to justify. It's still now the case of we can still reject a flexible working request as long as it falls within 8 criteria. What's being proposed now is employers can only reject if it is unreasonable.
it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah, it's going to be harder. How much harder? I wish I could tell you.
And the consultation period, I'm presuming that the government go out to businesses to carry out some research. Are those businesses small, micro, medium and large? Does anyone know?
Well, yeah, I think it's all businesses.
It's all businesses.
There'll be opportunities for all businesses, no matter how big you are, to have your say on that, definitely.
They're available on the government website when consultation goes out.
Yeah, well, the government class an SME is 50 to 249 employees. I've always had an issue with that. Because if you're payrolling 249 people, that's a big business.
Yeah,
and it's a lot different to 50.
Yeah.
You know, you look at what your VAT quarters would be and what your PAYE bill will be. It's a lot different, 50 employees to 249. And this is one of my challenges that I have with government. Whoever the visionaries are behind this, they're not in government now, are they? Because this was a Conservative initiation, flexible working.
No. This is Labour.
This is Labour.
But what I said before is the Conservative government, I can't remember how many years ago, did have something similar. They put through consultation in terms of flexible working is the default.
Yeah.
Not the you have to prove it and the employer can reject it quite easily. But interestingly, that never materialised after consultation. So I think I do want to preface this in terms of this is out. Yes, this has the potential to disrupt employers, and they really need to kind of take stock and look back at their kind of recruitment practices, probation practices. But I think a lot can change in 2 years. A lot can change in 2 years.
Starting off, I'm a big fan of apprenticeships. We've probably had, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 apprentices over the years, and starting off that are in Ketchin and Northampton. Great business. Dale Willis started it
I remember him.
30 odd years ago probably. And I always say to the team there, Katie and Jess, the two MDs, if ever you find another superstar, get in contact, because we'll always create a job for the right apprentice. And I got they won't mind me saying this. If they do, I apologise. But I got a CV across, and the person in question looked great. And I was like, yeah, bring them in. But they wanted to work from home 3 days a week. And I struggled with that, and hence why I didn't see them. So I don't want to end up in I suppose what I'm saying here in a roundabout way is I fear for what the business landscape will be in 10 years' time if we're encouraging as a business community that working from home is okay. Because let's face it, the minority of people have got sufficient working place at home, whether that be the right equipment, whether that be the right office space, whether the right internet connection.
I think as well, sorry to cut in, but also you might, if that's how a business is feeling, you may find that you are not going to attract the best candidates if you are not being flexible, because that person might have wanted to work from home 3 days a week because of low income or, you know, their own personal circumstances. So I think going forward in the future, I mean, it's something that I was at a networking event on Friday, and they were saying about the fact that recruitment in Northampton, for example, and a lot more people are looking at the culture. So I think when you're looking at the new act and the things that are coming from it, when it's looking at flexible working, for example, you may find people want to be flexible because they have childcare or they have, caring responsibilities. I think you're going to have to look about the culture of the organisation.
How can you create a culture if everyone's working from home?
And I was just about to say, and I think there are a lot of businesses that I know that have, since the pandemic, started bringing people back into an office, and that's a business decision.
Yeah, it's been a
as a business owner, I think for me, I'd like to be clear in the fact that nobody is saying that you've now got to have a workforce completely made up of home workers, because you absolutely haven't. If you're as a business owner, if you're saying I want all workers in 5 days a week, and that's for all of these reasons, that's absolutely fine, providing you're consistent.
Well, I can give you a live example of here, right? So we have work from home Wednesday and Friday. So if you want to work from home on a Wednesday or a Friday, you've got the choice to do that. Most people do, but there's probably the same 5 or 6 Arthur that are here on a Wednesday and a Friday. Okay, our studio team, I showed you the studio, didn't I? They work off a much bigger max. Okay, for me to be able to provide them, to be able to do the job to their best of their ability at home, they would need a super duper MacBook Air or like a laptop. Those machines are a few £1,000s. But is it unfair of me, or am I doing the right thing as an employer by saying to, like, encouraging other people, if they want to work from home on a Wednesday or Friday, they can? Because if not, I've potentially then got to go and fund several £1,000s worth of equipment to allow the other 6 in the studio to work from home on Wednesday and a Friday. And this is what I mean. To be fair to everybody, how can we create a culture in terms of that team bonding, that teamwork, if you like? But then from an equipment perspective, you've got to make sure everyone can do their job to the best of their ability at home. But then you could be running into tens of thousands of pounds depending on what industry you're in. And they're the challenges that I think other business owners have.
And I absolutely get that. But my question would be, so are you saying the only reason you wouldn't want them to work from home is because of the equipment?
Well, if I had my way, I'd have everyone in every day. But it's the wrong thing to do because I know I'd lose staff and I don't want to do that. I've got a great team here. But we do an anonymous survey and it was quite overwhelming. If we went from 2 days to 1 day, we would have people that would be looking for another job within a year. So we know that they've told us that anonymously, so we've acted on it and we've kept the Wednesday and Fridays. To answer your question, Claire, I think it probably would be because to do the job to the best of their ability, they would all need that dedicated super duper laptop.
And screens.
Exactly, yeah. And if you talk about risk assessments, should I be going around and doing a risk assessment, or somebody from here going around doing a risk assessment of the house to make sure that their posture's right, they've got the right chair, the right desk, the right internet?
You should be providing them.
Well, we don't. And do you know what? We probably couldn't afford it because if everybody out there was to have the same desk, the same chair. You can, as a providing again that you've got,
the contracts and the handbook to support and the documentation is there. It can be that if they want to work from home, they need to provide their own home station set up, but then you just need to make sure that an assessment is done, that they are, that they've got a desk and, they've got what they need and that their posture is correct and the right seating and everything else, because that's your duty of care as an employer.
Yeah, and this is where I struggle, ladies, because it's where does it end? It's so hard running a business on its own, and this comes back to the point I made at the beginning of this of the episode, Claire. At what point does a company need to have, dedicated HR? As soon as they employ the first person, I get that, but almost like a full-time HR person.
I don't. And again,
would that come under HR from doing those assessments?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing for me. You can. It's like any function within a business. It doesn't have to be internal. Like I said to you, we've got a customer of 80 employees and we are their outsourced HR and it works. Probably I would say in excess of 100, you probably are employing an internal HR person. But then for me, if you're employing one person, depends on what level you're employing them because of the skill and knowledge there as well.
I think ultimately you need to think about how much time, if you're saying kind of your HR and kind of for any kind of owner managed businesses, kind of how much time are you spending on HR, and is it really something that you can physically have the time to do, and looking at other ways in which you can outsource it or kind of have other providers or even have someone else in there. Is that the time investment or cost investment that you could potentially do to save you having that? Yeah. Save you having that headache. And that's why kind of when we were going back to where we started, it really does depend on the nature of the business, kind of what their HR provision is.
And I think that's it. Every business owner, you should be focusing on your business and what you do and what you're driving forward. And I think for me, it's just a case of there are people out there that can help and support and point in the right direction and assist with all of those things, so that to take those worries and stresses away, that the things that should be being done are being done, and helping create the right culture, the right environment, making sure that the training is done, the processes, the handbook, all of those things are in place so that you shouldn't feel like it's a stress or a worry. The point at which you're thinking, this is stressful, what's the point in being a business owner, tells me that you need some help.
Yeah, no, I get it. And it's that bit, as you know, we've got retained HR. It's not with.
It's not me.
Not with Claire.
Shock. Yeah.
No.
Joking.
We only reconnected a few
I
weeks
know,
ago.
I'm joking.
Else it would have been. But no, the point I make
nice
there
save
is,
there.
well, it's more for businesses that, because Ellie's my business partner. She's amazing. She takes care of all of this, right? But I know that there'll be business owners there that will find this hard.
Yeah,
because
and
they
a lot
don't
to digest.
Yeah, and they that's why they need to reach out to you ladies
Absolutely.
to have those conversations. But the bit that gets me, and this is the bit where I would put my foot down unless I was told legally, Ben, you're going to get sued, is those that choose to work from home on a Wednesday or Friday. If I'm told that I've got to pay for a risk assessment, go and make sure their internet's correct, go and make sure they've got the right desk and the right chair.
But hang on,
You've got to be a little bit careful. That's all I'm saying. Is there's nothing wrong, kind of, from what Claire was saying. Is, look, as a business decision, you can have that
Flexibility.
That default position of, look, this is my ideal.
Yeah.
Where you need to kind of really be careful is, say someone can't come into the office or needs to do it because they have a disability. I mean, I kind of think of cases where I have anxiety coming into the office.
Yeah.
You know, I can't be in this environment. I have to be working at home. That anxiety technically is a disability. There are kind of risk factors. Kind of, there's a reason all of us are kind of do what we're doing and kind of in a job. There is, that is.
I agree with that. We've had team members that suffer with anxiety, and we support them completely, and that's fine. But I feel like I can't help but feel that the law is more than ever bit on the employee side than the employer side. Now more than ever. The swing has really gone.
Yeah, and I do get that, and it's very clear. Kind of that's the way Labour is heading, and it's yes, I kind of completely agree on that.
So just while I'm down completely,
kick a man whilst he's down.
SSP, Claire. I mean, go on then. Yes.
And again,
because we're coming to the end of this episode.
Are we trying to make everyone depressed?
No, not at all. Because listen, this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you three, because you're experts in your own field.
It's awareness,
and and we've got to have and you're spot on earlier, Naomi, with the talk about mental health. And we look at the journey that the world has been on with mental health over recent years. It starts with having a conversation, and I think from a business owner's perspective, they need to have having these conversations either internally or with experts like you. So some of this is going to hit them because they might have heard clippets on the radio or seen something on the news or read something here, but it might just be a little bit of noise. And actually, guys and ladies, this is real. This is, all right, we haven't got dates and stuff yet, but this is going to be coming in. It's just a question of when, not if.
It's just additional costs at the moment. And it's kind of additional costs. I mean, we haven't even got to the budget yet. I don't even want to think about that. Yeah.
just for the audience, Claire, just tell us about Statutory Sick Pay.
It's just really around the day one rights. So, paying from day one as opposed to waiting the 4 days.
So what is now, it's you don't get paid technically from days 1 to 3. Right. What is now being proposed is you get it from day 1.
Yeah.
So again, these are, additional
costs to a business.
And it's...
And Labour aren't putting the taxes up.
What tax? My prediction is, well, from an employment side of things, my prediction is employers' national insurance is going to go up. I mean, they've had so many opportunities to say, no, it's not.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's not happened.
No.
I really want to have something cheery.
Well, before we disconnect, a right to disconnect, the government is leaning towards a code of practice rather than legislation on this.
Mm-hmm.
Claire, do you
that
want to elaborate?
That wasn't in the bill, the right to disconnect.
It wasn't.
That was really interesting.
Yeah, and I thought it was at one point. But this is, again, from an employee perspective, having the ability to walk away from their job at the end of their working day and not feel under pressure to respond to a phone call or reply to an email or, feel under pressure that they've got to sit there and write a document or, do something because of deadlines, timelines, whatever it might be, and ensuring that they have enough time in their working day to deliver the role that they're employed to deliver on.
Okay, so live example, right? We've got a number of different WhatsApp groups, some of which are just internal members of the team, some of which include clients as well. And I'm one of these people that very rarely switches off, and sometimes I'll just, back in the day, I'd have a notepad and pen next to my bed and I'd write things in the middle of the night when I woke up. Don't worry, I don't WhatsApp people in the middle of the night. But if we take Arthur, for example, who's in a couple of client WhatsApp groups, I will use that within reason 7 days a week. And probably up until maybe 9 o'clock at night if I needed to. Not every day, but if I needed to, I would send a message. I would never expect Arthur or any of my staff, my team, to reply or acknowledge anything outside of work hours. However, from my perspective, that's my brain dumping opportunity to put something in, as it is with some of our clients.
I think
Am I in the wrong?
No, I think for me it'd be setting the tone and your expectations.
So,
if you've made it clear,
tell them
that
They
exactly
all
that.
know that. They all know that, but
Transparency
I don't
is
have to
key in
stop doing
everything.
that.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Right.
It's about transparency and saying to Arthur, under no circumstances do I expect you to respond after you finish work. And providing they are clear on that, if they choose to, that's of their own doing.
Yeah.
But so long as you've not set the standard that, well, why didn't you reply? They clearly...
So it's
No.
little things, and don't undermine that necessarily of, oh, did you have a chance to look at that yesterday? Like you say on Monday morning first thing, oh, did you have a chance to look at my message yesterday that I sent you kind of at, 9 o'clock,
Sunday,
9 o'clock last night? So yeah, it's those type of things as well as kind of setting the expectation.
Yeah.
For me, so much of it is about transparency
Yeah.
and having honest conversations.
Absolutely.
Do you know what it's
Communication,
Yeah.
correct, yeah.
I mean, all three of us, there's so much that literally can be solved with just
Talking
and having an effective communication strategy with your employees.
Absolutely.
And internally, communication is just so key. Yeah. Kind of with all of it.
I'm sort of liking HR.
Oh.
Do you know, it sounds weird this, but if I'm honest, I found it a bit of a pain probably
before.
a few years ago. But now it's like,
They should add value.
well, it does
Yeah.
without a shadow of a doubt. If it's
Add
done properly,
value.
it does.
Yeah.
And I actually really enjoy we do these 6 monthly reviews. And I'm nervous, but I also enjoy the anonymous surveys because then you can reflect on your scores from the last time that you did it. So I think HR is probably undervalued, if I'm honest, in the world of work.
It's always it's very reactive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always the
But
thing
it should
that
be
It should be
proactive.
proactive.
most of the time we have a really good relationship with our clients, and half the time they call up, I go, no, you don't want to speak to me, but what's happened, it's they would love to be more proactive.
Absolutely.
You know.
And for me, I've worked in the corporate world, and it is you should be, whether you're internal or external, you should be proactive. You should be a part of leadership conversations, strategy, driving the business forward. There's so much that a HR person can bring to the table.
Okay. Right, ladies, thank you ever so much. I really appreciate your time today.
No, thank you.
But as always with our podcast guests, we end with a dinner party.
Oh God.
Not one of those dinner parties.
Literally started going back.
Put your keys in the pot, ladies. I didn't mean that.
Put that on your risk assessment.
Yeah, put that on the risk assessment, Arthur. So we'll start with you, Naomi. You're going for dinner tomorrow night. 3 guests, past or present. Who would you pick? And you two can have a think about this one.
Oh
Naomi's
my
thinking.
goodness, put me on the spot.
There's no right or wrong. Just give the audience an idea of who you would have at your dinner party.
Oh Christ! Now I feel really on the spot.
Claire?
Now.
Okay, I'll go because I've had a moment to think about it. So I would probably have Barack Obama,
Nice.
Denzel Washington.
Ooh.
What's your favourite
And-
Denzel Washington film?
Oh, there's way too many.
I watched, is it The Equalizer at the weekend?
Oh, do you know my husband keeps
He's
telling me
amazing
about
in
that
that.
movie.
Okay, haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
an
He
underrated
keeps on
Denzel
He
film.
keeps on saying I need to watch that.
Yeah,
actually.
there's a
amazing
sequel as well.
actor.
Sorry,
Yeah.
go on.
Yeah. And third one, I'm going to go with Stephen Bartlett.
Ooh.
Very good. male dominated as well.
Yeah, they are, which is surprising. Yeah.
Okay.
Does it have to be a celebrity?
No, anyone you want.
I got this as an interview question once, but I'm going to change a couple of them. The first one that's going to stay the same is I'm going to have my gran. So
I was going to have her, actually.
So she passed away, about 12 years ago. I was pregnant with my eldest at the time, and so much has happened. We were so close. So she's the first one. Have a proper catch up with her. The second one I would do would be Peter Kay. Really controversially, it's going to be Boris Johnson.
Oh.
I just have so many questions. I have so many questions, and he's doing this big press tour at the moment that I just keep on seeing. I've just got so many questions.
I need a fourth person at the table, and it would be my father. But for the same reasons. But I was thinking more from a business perspective.
Sorry, I should have said that.
Yeah.
So mine would be Sylvia Pankhurst. She's not one of the sort of well-known suffragettes, but she has done a lot for women and for women in other countries as well. David Attenborough.
Yes.
Because he's just knows everything.
You'd fall asleep though.
Well,
no,
yeah,
Naomi,
maybe
can you pass
You'd
the
feel
sauce?
relaxed.
You'd
feel relaxed, yeah.
I think he's like everyone's granddad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
But he
David
would make
Attenborough.
everybody
So
feel
David.
at ease, and he'd be like, "Oh, and there was this one time when this monkey," and you'd be like, "Ha ha ha!" It would be great. And then, the final person would actually be my nan as well, who passed away 3 years ago. Yeah, I miss her a lot, so definitely would love to have a catch up with her.
Brilliant. Well, look, ladies, thank you once again, and for those listening still, please do get in contact with any of the ladies. They've got a free template, or even if it's just a free coffee and a half an hour conversation with them. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you.